Hi there, my name is Rachel Shelmadine. Welcome to my podcast, Moments in Motion, a podcast where I am talking to creative professionals across the international design sector from all areas of design, specifically about those moments in their life and career where they have been going along a path in one particular direction, then something happens that takes them in a different direction. This week, I will be talking with Nathalie Gibbs. I first met Nathalie over 10 years ago. And as soon as we started talking, I knew she was something really special. She has that rare gift of exquisite aesthetic, but with really sharp, insightful, strategic thinking as well. She's a wonderful creative and founder and is about to launch what I think will become a landmark project that will touch all of our lives, not just a particular client or a particular part of the design world. It's something that we can all interact with. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Nathalie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Despite the storm, the rain, the
Oh, it's miserable today, isn't
general
it?
general don't go out there to even get the bins. I mean,
Yeah, totally miserable.
okay. So thank you very much for agreeing to be my guest about those moments in life where you are very happily going along a particular path and then something happens which pushes you in a different direction. I'm really interested in those moments that they take you somewhere you never would have chosen to go, but there's something always wonderful that you learn or experience.
I've quite a few of those. So,
Jolly good. That's what we like
how
to
much
hear.
time have you got, Rachel?
All afternoon, all week. So I'm just going to start you off, Nathalie, with just a little warm-up question. If you could go back in time to any moment in your life that jumps out as wow, when everything just feels like you're where you're meant to be.
Actually, there's been a few of them, those wow moments. So I used to love skiing,
Did you? I
and
didn't know that about you.
my I just remember every single time that I would go down the side of a mountain fast and get to
Where's
the
the
bottom.
net? Which
It'd
area
be in
are
the
you skiing
Pyrenees
in?
in France.
It's beautiful, yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. And there's something about you having to control your breath in order to be able to get down to the bottom of the mountain, the skill that
Yes,
it takes to be able to ski. And so I was being trained a lot at that point. And
yeah.
I mean, it's unadulterated, just phenomenally brilliant, delightful feeling as you're going down this side of this mountain full pelt, and that feeling of when you've arrived at the bottom. It's exhilarating and brilliant.
Yes.
And so I would say, and I did that quite a few times. So yeah, that
And
I would
is
say.
it frightening? Because
No,
I should think there's a moment once you've started, you can't turn back. You can't change your mind. It's not scary though.
no, not at all. I mean, when I was younger, I'd say I was pretty fearless. So no, it's not frightening. I mean, just the whole experience takes over. And
Yeah.
it's exhilarating and brilliant and exciting. And yeah, I loved it. I would absolutely love it every single time.
Have you still kept skiing over the years, or was that just a moment in time in the past when you were doing a lot of that?
I stopped for a
Did
while.
life and kids take over?
Well, I had a really bad accident, which put me off. And
Yeah.
then yeah, life took over a little bit. But then I did go. I'm trying to remember. It was like a couple of years ago. I think it was a couple of years ago. We went skiing, and took the children, and it was really good fun. But obviously, I'm not as fit as I used to be then. So it was exhausting. So something I'd never felt before was being exhausted through skiing. And actually, my kids were better than me. So it was.
Yeah, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's life as a parent.
yeah. So I enjoyed that as well. But really, really loved. Again, just really loved the speed, the air on you, and
Yeah,
also what it feels like when you've accomplished it as well. Still exactly the same things. And it's as though I hadn't lived in between, the last time I
that's
was
lovely.
skiing,
Yeah,
and like this last.
yeah.
Just really, really loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's just Like it's instinctive and there's no thought behind it. I know that, brilliant skiers will have extraordinary strategies and will be amazing individuals, but I literally just love that. I'm doing it.
Just throwing yourself off
Yeah,
and
I love it.
going with it.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
I think that's why so many people do those kinds of sports. I mean, I've never done skiing. I've never been attracted to skiing. I'm fearless emotionally, but I am not fearless physically in that
Yeah,
sense.
that's
I'm
right.
so clumsy. I mean, I fall over just walking on a straight, level surface. So, but I have a lot of friends who ski and do black runs and who do quite dangerous stuff and snowboarding, and like you've just described, that exhilaration, that I
Yeah,
suppose it's freedom.
it
You're
is.
free, physically free, aren't you, in the
That's a
moment that
really
you
good
do that,
way of
like
putting it.
parachuting or something like that. You're not bound by gravity or
Yeah, yeah.
um
Yeah, there's something bigger than you, and I think that's what's really great. That's what I really love. Never mind the kind of landscape and all of that. I don't mean it that way, but there's
yeah,
just just that, the moment that you just go and then it just takes over. And
yes,
um, some people might think it's giving into something or whatever, but you give into it. And actually I've noticed that it's
yes.
something that I do a lot of, whether it be in my workspace or as a parent or just as, a mate, just whilst a lot of people might think I'm a stubborn old fool. I do give into
I
stuff.
would never say that. Stubborn, yes. Fool, never.
But yeah, I do enjoy it.
Bullshy, maybe, but never call you a fool. No.
Bless you.
But you're saying you kind of, that's your attitude to life, is that you just get to a point where you just got to go with it.
Yeah, totally,
Just got to go
totally.
with it.
And
Yeah.
you've just made me realise that actually I've done it quite a few times. I've done it in work environments quite a few times and actually
Yeah.
regretted it a little bit.
Mm.
But I've also done it, as I said, being a mum, or also, kind of just life situations where actually the best thing to do was to just give into it all and just
Mm.
see where it was going to take you. So yes, I've done that. I think I've done that quite a few times, actually. You've made me realise.
No, that's why, when you and I first met over 10 years ago, made such an impression on me within the first few seconds. And I just knew I was going to love you. Just the vibe off you was that
Straight back at
so
you,
full of
darling.
life and, yeah, ballsy, fearless, and that's never gone away through all the years that I've known you and through all the things that you've been through, all the ups and downs. It's always there. And I love that because you epitomize what I'm trying to encapsulate when I'm coaching, is to
Right.
just to let go, but also to be much, much less
Yeah.
fearful of life, because sometimes you just have to get on whatever that particular wave
Yeah.
is in your life,
Yeah.
and go with it.
Yeah.
Just trust it, because that's where all the amazing
Yeah.
learning is. That's where all your best friends and the best people you'll ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
It's never through control and planning and holding back.
Yeah,
It's
I
that, like you
agree. I
say, that
agree.
letting go of.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's actually been my godsend. I've been a bit like that. And probably why, I've also, jumped into different areas
Yeah,
and without having any of the expertise or the,
yeah,
training. And actually I think it, every single time I've kind of gone, oh, I'm one of life's students, right? That's always been my response. But actually I think
right.
this conversation is quite interesting. It has kind of made me realize that actually the thing that I like the most is actually just going, all right, let's give it a go.
Let's try it.
Give it a go. Let's go. And
Was
seeing
Yeah,
what
I definitely, like I said, I saw that in you straight away, and that's always there. But just sort of, then let's go back a little bit, because I actually don't know anything really about your past. Where are you from? Where were you born? Just tell me. And were you always like that? Were you like that as a kid? Were you always quite an adventurous, or were you an introverted child? But tell me first, where were you born? Like, are you
okay.
are you a Londoner? Are you?
So I am a Londoner, but I was actually born in Leeds.
Ah,
So
no, I
I'm a
didn't know that
northerner.
about you.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
you're a
I was
northerner.
born in Leeds.
Yeah,
But we didn't stay in Leeds for very long.
yeah,
So it's where I was born, but I'm a Londoner. My
yeah.
family is both from London and also from Marseille in the south of France. Can't you tell
Ah,
with my olive skin?
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that about you either.
and yeah, grew up bilingual, so I speak French as
Mm.
well. Mum is
Oh,
French. And lived in lots of different places as well. Always came back to London, but
yes.
lived in places like Torquay, completely mad English Riviera places, but phenomenally beautiful. Love the sea.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, we lived in lots of different places, but London, when people ask where you're from, I always say London because it
That
just
was always a hub that you came back to.
absolutely. And my dad's family were here. Um, and actually, I lived with my grandmother for a while as well. So, kind of London has always been home.
Yes.
We'd always come back. And I've done that throughout
Well,
my life as well. Went off to
gone
New York,
away,
came
come
back.
back.
Went off to Barcelona, came back. You've
Oh,
always
I love
come back
Barcelona.
here. So it's kind of, yeah, London really is home.
Okay, so tell me then, do you come from a creative family? So where's your wonderful
Okay.
creative talent from? Is it in the family, or is this just something that you
Um,
picked up?
I don't think my family realised, like my mum, I don't think has ever realised that she is somebody who loves beautiful things and also, has a huge interest in art. So would take us to lots of art galleries and, we'd experience that. But there's nobody really
Mm.
creative in the family. And again, kind of interestingly, my dad, he was much more in manufacturing, but he worked for Burberry's for most of his life. So I've got a big old soft spot
Ah,
for Burberry's.
interesting. Okay. Yep.
So as a kid, I'd go to the factories where he was, and I'd kind of like be mucking around with buttons or mucking around with fabric or
So that potentially where you got your start in textiles
totally,
from? Is that your
totally,
first
without
exposure
doubt.
to?
Yeah,
Mm,
without
yeah.
doubt, Rachel. It's kind of it felt like it was a very natural thing to do to go into textile
Yes. Yeah.
and create textiles for or fabrics for fashion. So that that
Yes.
was
Yeah.
that was my first kind of love. Absolutely loved doing that. And ended up, being a textile designer for different designers. So
Yes.
I definitely say, yeah, that kind of, that love of fabric and making clothes, and we would
Mm.
spend our whole weekends as kids. It would be hysterical and dull. Where Dad would want to go into, either Burberry stores or into, another shop like, Selfridges, etc., that were selling Burberry's, and we'd be looking at Burberry clothes all the time.
That's the real, I think, I think that's the real heyday of Burberry.
Yeah.
In my very early days in the industry, I did some work for Burberry when they were still at that kind of level, but their real heyday, I think, was same with Jaeger, was that sort of 70s, 80s time
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they were the just unique British fashion, beautifully made and
Yeah.
made here. That's what's so
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, it was definitely about creating coats at that point. I think it's what it
Yeah.
has evolved into is a fashion brand, which is really exciting
Yes.
and lovely. And I think it has done some extraordinary stuff, by the way.
Yes, it has. No,
Really,
I
really
agree with
extraordinary.
you. Yeah.
I think it's suffered a little bit by becoming a bit like, did you get that on the market type thing? Uh,
Mm,
but I mean, I can't diss Burberry. I bloody love Burberry.
no.
I love Burberry. I still do. I still do. I mean, kind
Mm,
of funnily enough, I don't buy new anymore, new clothes. We
no, I
years
don't.
and years
No.
ago we decided
Yeah.
that we weren't going to buy new clothes anymore. So thank God for
Mm.
vintage now.
I am
And
I am head to toeing like this.
yeah,
This is
I
vintage
absolutely love
Karen
it.
Millen.
I
Yeah,
just
I'm
love it.
vintage and charity shops.
Yeah,
I'm the same as you. I
love
made a
it, love it, love
decision
it.
about 5, 6 years ago not to buy any more
Yeah,
new
nothing new.
stuff. No.
And actually, it's quite a nice thing to do. But however, what it does do is it means that on vintage, for instance, what you do is I'm sure you kind of you're kind of got a subject matter. So I always go
Yeah.
Burberry. I
Yeah.
always put Burberry in, and I kind of see what is available. And I got my eldest son, it was a Thomas Burberry peacoat, which looks absolutely gorgeous. But the reason I
Oh,
got it
lovely.
was
Man.
because it was Burberry more than actually the peacoat being gorgeous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
definitely.
especially really because you can thank Burberry then for your dad working for Burberry. Then really,
Yeah,
that's your starting point, isn't it, for
yeah,
everything?
I'd say
That's
so.
the
Yeah, and there was.
and
I
I
remember.
didn't know that about you.
Well, I
Never
remember in
asked you.
in the factories they had these cone shaped water cups, paper, And I used to nab loads and loads and loads of them and pick stuff out of them. So, these kind of just these silly, pointless sculpture type things. And I didn't realize as a kid that I was doing it, but we'd be in the factory at the weekend so that we had to entertain ourselves. And so some of it would be with buttons, some of it would be with, these paper cups. And then also, I used to have these big presses that you used to pull down. And I used to love doing that. And I used to love putting things in there to see what it would do. What a life.
Okay, so that's how that was your starting point. That's how you, like you say, got into textiles, and that was your platform for the rest of design. But you've hinted at, you've gone into things where you haven't necessarily been an expert, but you've tried lots of different things. Because I know that about you from when I first met you, is that you're real true hybrid. You've tried everything.
Yeah.
So you're studying textiles or you're working in textiles. So when's your first moment that you can think of where something takes you in a different direction?
I'd say actually that a common thread throughout is curiosity, because wanting to know more about something. But to answer your question, the first time was actually I had graduated from St Martin's doing fashion textiles.
Yeah.
I was working for several designers, and I had also worked a lot in fabric with kind of caustic soda and natural fibers.
Right.
It was all quite an interesting thing to do.
Yes.
Instead of it being about print as you traditionally know it, it was actually printing in order to change the structure of the fabric. So it was quite a nice, it was a bit experimental. You didn't quite know what was going to happen, but I loved it. Yes. So I was doing that kind of stuff for a few people. And I realized that actually what I wanted to do was to have my own textile studio. I would say I was about 23, 24 at that point. I realized that what I could do was live off my freelance money, because I was freelancing, and then put aside money from working behind a bar at the National Theatre. A friend of mine worked there.
That's a nice place to work behind the bar.
It was just brilliant, and I don't.
I bet you met some interesting people there.
I loved it. Yes, massively. It was a right laugh, actually.
I bet, especially in those days. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just brilliant. I love theatre. I still love theatre a lot, and so I became a theatre designer. That was my next step from being a fashion textile designer. I was saving the money from working behind the bar.
Yes.
To kind of basically set up a studio, and obviously off my freelance work as well. And met this brilliant woman who she was the head of the paint frame. So basically, where all the sets were painted. Because I was working in the green room most of the time. So the green room is like the bar that everyone who works at National would go to. It's the one that's open until late, so it's a right giggle working.
Yes, and all their guests who've got tickets.
I loved
special
it.
Guests, special people.
It was brilliant. Yeah. It was one of those places where, and it's what I love about theatre, is that you've got super well-known actors, directors, you name it, designers, etc., sat with all the crew and everyone just suddenly being under one roof and have one passion, which is to create a great piece of theatre.
Yes.
So everyone would talk about theatre all the time as well, and just get.
Are you all being lovies? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It was a bit
lovey world.
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant, all of that. So Hilary was one of the people that would come into the green room, and I said to her, I'd love to go and have a proper look at it. And so we went straight away. I went to see the paint frame, and we were just talking, and I said to her, I do paint. I'd love to have a go at doing this. And she was like, come and join us. So I did. That's what it was like. It was a great place. I mean, I can't thank it enough. I had such a good time there.
If you hadn't got that job working behind the bar, you'd have set up your own little agency, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Which would have been another brilliant path as well, I'm sure. But actually ended up working in the paint frame, met this wonderful designer called Alison Chitty. really, really charismatic, brilliant, massively talented designer, and just overall absolute brilliant woman. And she then spoke about another brilliant designer, originally a textile designer, and then got into theatre. And she then introduced to me this whole school that she ran called Motley. And so I joined Motley. I did a 2-year course learning to be a theatre and costume. It was the whole shebang. So I went back to university at that point and then became a theatre designer after that. So I'd say that was my first
detour, going from one thing to another.
Yeah.
So did you work on any really great productions? Is there anything that stands out?
I was really, really lucky in theatre, actually. I ended up working at places like, did a show at the Almeida with Peter Gill, which was the last show I actually did because Peter Gill was an extraordinary director and writer. And I honestly thought it couldn't get any better than that. That was it. And that was at the Almeida, which I loved beyond belief.
Yeah. Gorgeous theatre.
Beautiful theatre, so brilliant, healthy budget. It was brilliant. I loved it. So I'd say that was one of the highest moments. Another one was, interestingly, now that I live in the area, but it was at Borough Market before Borough Market became Borough Market as we know it now. And it was before, it was literally just for, B2B stuff. And there were the big arches that were on the side where there were things like Vinopolis. Now it's like loads of beautiful restaurants. But before it was all derelict. There was nothing there. There was a cafe, and that was it. And everything would start at 4:00 in the morning. And we did with Julianne Robinson, one of my favourite directors as well, a lovely woman. Still in touch with her. I love her. We did a show there with the Raw Court, where we had a car that drove into the arches, and there was an audience all walking around. It was like one of the most artistic things we'd ever done. It was just brilliant. It was possibly pretentious, but definitely brilliant. And we had to stay overnight in the arches, which was pretty petrifying and pretty disgusting. But another great...
Yes, because Borough Market was not as we know it now.
No.
In fact, the whole of East London was not as we know it now.
No.
Well, that's a very good start. So then you left theatre design. You're saying you felt you'd left on a high after doing the production at the Almeida.
Yeah.
So where did you go next?
Actually, I'd already started to talk to another brilliant woman, Sally Crabb at Imagination. And I was very seduced by what Imagination were doing, actually. And also it was filled with production people from theatre and designers from theatre. So Sally,
was it? In the early days,
yeah. And so Sally asked if I'd like to, come along. And so I did. And I got a day rate, which I didn't have in theatre, which I just thought was like unbelievable. Towards the end of the week, I hadn't run out of money.
I should think after pay in theatre, it must have been like riches.
I mean, I did all right in theatre. Don't get me wrong. I was lucky in I did do stuff with the Raw Corps, but even if you're doing really, really brilliantly, it's not, it wasn't shed loads.
No, it's like I started out working in TV, and I was at the BBC, and I remember asking for a raise because it was barely enough to kind of survive living in London, and I was told no because working at the BBC was a vocation.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, maybe I need to consider something else.
I'd never come across anything like it. I loved it as well. Gary Withers was still running it.
Talent, didn't it?
But
all the best people sort of trained there.
Absolutely. No, it was like going back to art school because you had an area that was about model making, you had areas that were about making films, and it was just amazing. And I was being paid to be there, and I couldn't believe it. They were already using computers, so I had to learn how to use a computer. So I did a lot of seating layouts, not terribly creative, but but I did it. I was all up for it. It was... I felt as though I was being given a really brilliant opportunity and absolutely loved it.
Like you said, you're learning. You're one of life's students, so you were learning. You probably, like you say, you didn't have a plan, just seeing what happens.
Absolutely loved it. I thought it was magical Imagination at that point. I don't know what it's like now because I've not gone back, but I imagine it still has that magic. It can't help itself. It was always like that. And I think it just attracted really, and I'm sure it attracts still really talented people. That's
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I loved that. Worked there for a few years. And then 9/11 happened, and that was just disastrous for the whole creative. No, actually,
Yeah.
not just creativity. It was disastrous for everything, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so I was a permalancer. I don't even know if that still exists these days, but I was a permalancer with them, and I was one of the last freelancers there. And Adrian Caddy was the CD at the time there.
Yeah. I remember him.
Young and charismatic, absolutely lovely.
I came into the industry actually just at the time of 9/11. I moved from Dublin to London from technology, working in technology in Ireland, to work with design agencies. And it was, just a couple of months later, 9/11 happened, just
Well,
as
I
I was
didn't know
making that
that.
shift.
Yeah, I didn't know that, Rachel. I
So,
knew that
but
you were
yeah,
in Ireland, but I didn't realise. Yeah,
Landor
well,
were my first client, where of course you then went to work, but Landor were my first design agency
oh,
client.
Landor, yeah.
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 And but yes, imagination, a lot of these sort of big names in the early days, but yes, around that time. So it was a really tough time for,
Oh,
well,
yeah, it was vicious.
all industries
For
were shocked
everyone,
by
wasn't
it.
it?
Yeah.
Awful, absolutely awful. So
Well, let's go on to your next moment.
I would actually say, even though it's another agency,
Yes.
I had a real wish to know, or actually properly pick up that vocabulary that comes from brand.
Yes.
And because people kept on saying, well, you don't come from a brand background. We're like, and so I really wanted to find out, what that was. And I wanted to create my own background in brand.
Mm,
So I was
mm,
lucky enough to meet Peter Knapp, and cut a long story short, got a role at Landor to help them create a bigger 3D offer,
mm,
which was, within the realms of brand experience. And so I did that. I went and joined him and created a team. There was a small team, I think of 2 when I joined, and then we grew it, and it was really great. Landor was just really, really brilliant place. Loved it. As soon as I think of Landor, it just fills me with a bit of happiness.
Well, I
Um,
was so lucky because that was my introduction into the design world. Because my first business was working with tech startups and early days of internet, really. So, and then when I moved back to London, I decided to move into design. And I didn't really know anything about the design world. So I was doing research and I came across Landor and I thought, they'd be good as a client.
what made you research design then? As from that, from jumping
Because
from tech into
the dot-com bubble had well and truly burst. It
right,
was, they'd overinflated. Everything had got overhyped, a bit like AI is now. There was just so much money being thrown around, and it just went poof almost
yeah,
overnight. It was unbelievable to watch because, I worked with such successful companies and one went down and they all went down like dominoes, and it was in a
right,
matter of months.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and my partner was an architect and a designer, so I loved design and loved architecture and was fascinated by interiors, and it just was something that seemed really interesting. And so I came across Landor and I thought, well, they seem to be the best in the market. Let's try them.
yeah.
So I just rang them up one day, and their head of operations just said, yeah, come in.
Okay.
And I met a lot of senior designers and design directors, and they just said, come in and coach us.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a brilliant place. Lovely,
Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
absolutely loved
Really,
it.
really in-depth, talented place.
Yeah,
Just the talent. It was like
it was
in the
fun as
pores of the
well.
building.
Yeah, it was really good fun as well, Rachel. I mean, I really do hope people are still having lots of fun in agencies, because it doesn't sound as though they are, but I'm going to be glass half full, and I'm just going to think that it's just people just being negative, but being in design is fun, and that's what it should be like. And actually, all of the experiences that I've had, they've been fun up to a certain point, which is usually when you want to leave.
Yeah, wonder, Natalie, picking you up on that. I think the design world has changed so dramatically. So I came into the design world in 2001, and I would say things started to change when we had the big downturn in 2008.
Right.
I remember things started to shift then. So I think the design world has been under pressure ever since then, because a lot of client accounts just collapsed.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
A lot of design agencies suddenly felt they were on the back foot, so they had to work much harder to win business because there was much less of it around. And sadly, what I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, is that the design world has lost its verve. It's lost its confidence in itself, because it's had to hustle to get work. Rather, before 2008, people saw design as something special that people who had special talent and skill did for them, which enhanced their business. And then after 2008, it's seemed as if the clients have held all the power, and design agencies have started to question, should we do this, should we do that? And they're trying to constantly reinvent themselves, chasing less and less work. And they're not seen as a result as magical, special. They're seen as, you're just a function, and we can use you, or there are 500 other yous. And I've seen that chip away at the confidence in the design world ever since then. And AI then coming in, it's that same effect. But I think what I'm starting to hear design people say is that ultimately this will create a renaissance. This will make people, and I think you and I were talking about this, weren't we, recently?
Yeah.
There is that real desire for human, that magical, strategic, real true design that actually changes how you see things, how you experience life, big life-changing design that even though it's small moves, it has an impact on all of us. And I think people are starting to realize that design actually is important. It isn't just because, I can sit and I can create something using AI that looks very glossy and wonderful, but actually is flat. It has no meaning, it has no depth. And I think that's what someone like you, from you having all those different design experiences, especially going in depth into branding, which is about story and meaning and how you go from here to another place, and why. It isn't just about, does it look better?
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to realize that flat, very glossy, very instant AI design is nothing. It doesn't impact our lives. It makes no difference to anyone, and it doesn't make a business stronger.
Yeah.
It's a momentary thing. It's a moment of gloss, and then it's gone. Whereas I think there's a craving for those older skills, that love of making, that love of thinking, which, I'm sorry, AI can't do. It can aid you, but it can't do it.
I think, I think I'm still coming up with an opinion on AI. I imagine by the time I have come up with an opinion that the bubble will have burst. Here's hoping. But
yeah, we're using chalk now.
Yeah.
Chalk is the big thing.
Yeah, that'll work.
We've got coloured chalk.
Chalk, a bit of charcoal, lovely. What I can't get along with whilst I'm doing it right now is I have no joy in putting in prompts, whereas I have huge joy drawing, looking at stuff, tearing things apart, folding things, I have huge joy doing that, and that helps. Whereas actually the art or the activity of AI really doesn't get me that excited. I think that's what's going to stop me from being really interested in it. I can see it maybe helping. I come in and out. It's like in and out of focus with regards to my opinion on AI. It's not an enjoyable thing to do for me.
No, not for a creative purpose.
I get quite excited about doing a daft mock-up on a screen. I kind of, that's like, you do
Yeah.
woo when that happens and it looks really good. But the actual process of, and I've done it, put in some prompts to see what it does. And I've
Yeah.
used it in the work environment as well. And it didn't challenge me in any way. It didn't make me feel as though I've got to do something better. I totally get that your thinking has to be really on point, and, you know, you need to
Mm.
already have a very strong vision in your head. And, but it didn't allow me to be playful. It didn't allow me to make the sort of mistakes that actually deliver something else. It didn't,
No,
you know,
I think
and
no, I think for someone like you and for the design sector itself, I think AI is a sort of false god. I think it's very good for someone like me because I'm not at all creative. I'm good at writing, but I'm not visual at all. So it allows me to access a skill to put together a visual piece for marketing. So I can understand why businesses are thinking, oh, I don't need designers anymore. I
yeah,
can do
yeah,
this
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
again,
yeah,
it can only give you something that is flat. It You still need the thinking behind it. And so if you genuinely need to make a shift in your business and you need to reach your clients in a different way, or new clients, or to just radically change the world, you need the thinking. It isn't the speed and the gloss, which, I mean, the speed of AI is mesmerizing, how
yeah.
quick
It's
it can
very
come up with an
seductive.
answer.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
I think we've got fooled to think that speed means it's doing something else, and it isn't really. It's just collating information. But I think you still need that human creativity, that spark, which
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I just don't think AI will ever have. I think it can replicate a flat version of it, but I don't think it can do that depth.
yeah. I mean, I think AI just takes up too much space. If I'm honest, Rachel, it just takes up too much space, and
Well, that's because you're
you
naturally a
know,
creative and a maker, so it will for you because you're then having to craft
yeah.
prompts, which is alien. That's alien to how
Alien,
you
totally
work. Yeah,
boring. But
yeah,
I do think, you know, if there is some, you know, a swerve for it to take, it's got to do good. But I think that about everything now, in any case, you know, whether it be,
yeah.
you know, any industry, it's got to start doing some good. But, you know, just any output has got to do some good. And
And
I
got to have meaning. It's got to be
yeah,
meaningful.
and
We're creating a world which is getting more and more devoid of meaning, and people are craving it.
darling, yeah, yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
So let's go on
Sunday and
then. Give
I,
me a
Sunday time.
moment.
Well, I would say actually it was when I then went to Black Sheep's.
That's when you
Um,
and I first met. Yeah.
exactly. And I have to admit, you know, I was pretty pedestrian in my opinion of what interiors were. And I
Mm,
did have a very cheap perspective that it literally was plumping up cushions and putting in some nice curtains. And
yeah.
I kind of was just a bit,
A lilac cushion.
just not
That's
me.
it,
It's
really.
just not my kind
Yeah.
of thing. I can't see me telling a story. I can't see kind of how we can create, you know, these memorable moments. You know, it suddenly felt a very, it felt actually quite flat using, you know, your
Mm,
language.
mm.
But I have to admit, you know, talking with you and talking with my husband as well, because my husband had said to me, Nat, you never say no to anything. And it was true. And I was kind of, oh, no, I don't think it's right for me. Um, so actually talking to you and him, I just kind of went, let's give it a go. Let's see what it does. I was curious by it. And actually the thing that I loved the most about that studio were the designers. I mean, they were a brilliant, slightly complex bunch of people, really talented. There was no doubt about it.
Mm.
They were really talented. And I fell in love with them. They were a really, really talented bunch of people who have gone on to do extraordinary stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I see them out in the industry because
Just
it's a
brilliant.
long time ago now. I see them sort of
Yeah,
everywhere.
brilliant individuals, some of which I'm still in touch with, which is really lovely. Incredibly talented individuals. Actually, it was hospitality.
Hospitality, yeah.
And actually, hospitality is all about telling stories.
Yeah.
And whether it be the story that's being told from a plate of food, to the experience that you're
Mm,
having, to what you then tell somebody else, it's all about storytelling. And
mm.
so, of course, I fell in love with it. And it's very similar to theatre. You know, there's a first night. It has
Yes,
to
you're
begin
right.
with,
There is an
then
element
there's
of
the
theatre,
night.
isn't there? Yeah.
Huge similarities. And so my curiosity began, and I really and learned a lot from these designers and absolutely loved it. So I'd say that that was another one of those, woo, let's move into that
Going in a
world.
different direction, yeah.
And interestingly, you know, I would say that my background was much more within the environment of, you know, imagination like work.
Mm.
But interestingly, when people look at my portfolio now, I remember meeting some people at Jack Morton and them came, well, you wouldn't be designing that sort of stuff now, talking to me as though I was, you know, within the realms of architect stroke interior designer. But I'm not that. Why have I now got that title? Weird. Anyway, weird. It's always interesting. I always find it fascinating what other people think of you. In particular, I love the way people love silos. That always interests me. And how
Yeah, the design
use
world can
any
be
of them.
very guilty of that, can't it? That you're
It's so
2D or you're 3D
Yeah.
or you're graphic or your
Yeah.
brand or your advertising, and
But
it's
you
like
have
it's
to, but you
design if
still,
you're a great designer.
but you're still being asked to be good at everything. So that's
Yeah.
what I always find really kind of surprising. And somebody would ask me if I had any retail background, of which I have some. And it was like the most important thing. I'd never done a piece of brand experience until I did some branding. I'd never even designed a show until I designed a show. So it's really like this wish to have the exact experience of whatever it is that those people are looking for. I think it's hugely detrimental to creativity because you just end up with people who have done the same thing for the same brands, doing it, you know,
and then you end up with those agencies that are just echo chambers, and they're just reinventing the same thing over and over and over
and it's
again.
a shame.
You see that,
it's a real shame because actually, I do think it's detrimental to creativity. It's like there's no sudden spark or marriage of thoughts.
It goes with that fear that's ever since that big downturn in 2008. I think there's a lot of fear in the design world, and the agencies who are doing well tend to have a mix of talents. They just have great creative people. They're not, like you said, they're not silo, and that means they're inventive, and so they meet each client problem anew rather than thinking, oh well, let's do it like this one, or we did well with that. It's more let's just look at this problem and let's be as creative as possible.
No, absolutely. And that's the way it should be. I mean, that's good. That's like being at art school.
Definitely.
And I think art school is the example every single time, as far as kind of like creating a great culture within an agency.
That's where everybody's got ideas all the time.
Fearless as well.
So let's ask you then for another detour, another moment.
So it wasn't actually going to New York, even though you could think that it was that. But actually, I didn't go to New York for anything other than was offered a role. Let's see what it's like. I would actually say it was when we came back from New York. I didn't really feel like going back into design at all, actually.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't. No. I couldn't.
Because you'd gone out there, you'd worked for Rockwell, hadn't you? You'd gone out there specifically for them.
Yes, correct. So I worked with Rockwell for a while and then actually worked with an old friend from Landor, Rachel, and worked for a company called Word Search, which, and you know, it was kind of much more within that world rather than creating any sort of environments or anything like that. So that was quite good fun. But when I came back, I may have been a bit burnt out, or at least I just needed to get excited by something else. So I had been thinking about, you know, I had the hospitality bug and I thought I wanted to create a pop-up. And so
that's right.
I created a pop-up that was all about chips and gravy and champagne. And I know it's now, but boy, do I love chips and boy, do I love champagne. And so it kind of made a lot of sense. So I did that, which was a bit of a giggle, realized it wasn't right for me, but actually the doing of it and the making and having that pop up.
Because I remember talking to you and you'd really thrown yourself into it. You were deep into recipes.
Working with a chef, which, you know, was quite, that particular individual was quite hard work, but also hysterical. Just hysterical. So it was great. It was actually, do you know what? I loved it. And then COVID hit. and probably not the best time to want to open up a
No,
restaurant.
had you actually opened any? Had you
Yeah,
actually?
we did a pop. We did a
You
weekend.
had.
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
actually
yeah,
done
yeah.
it.
We did it. We actually did it. We actually got people sat there eating the food, having a good time. It was brilliant, and it was really good fun. I loved it. COVID just made it impossible. I created lots. I had lots and lots of ideas, wrote them up, really spent time, really thinking them through. Some I carried on with, some I didn't. And the one that, which is going to start the next little interesting blip, I think is actually going to end up being one of my most favourite career jumps ever. I love London. I love the urban environment. During COVID, whilst I struggled as a human being, I thought it was extraordinary when you'd walk around and there'd be nobody around.
It allowed people to see. I mean, I did some online workshops, and a lot of the people were in London, and a lot of the people had come from outside of London, or Australians, or they, weren't natural Londoners, and they said they had no idea that London was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they were allowed to walk around rather than rushing to their
Yeah.
office.
No, exactly. I think you're
They were, and like you
absolutely
said,
right.
not many people around, but you could actually see London, and London is a very beautiful city.
Magnificent. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so actually, walking around
Mm.
and without people there, and in particular without really, you never saw kids, you never saw children around. I struggle with that. I absolutely love kids. And I remember turning around to my eldest son saying, "Oh, as we're crossing over Waterloo Bridge," and I said, "Oh, this is where I had my first kiss." And and then him and I just going through London and coming up with these memories, and sharing these memories. And it was, but for my eldest, it was about talking about what he remembered, because some of his most formative years were actually when we were in New York. So actually what he remembered about London was pretty hazy.
Yes.
But he did remember some stuff, and it was quite lovely. And so by the time we got back home, I was like, I want to remap London. Actually, I want to remap the world with past and present childhood memories. And that simple thought that came out, just a gorgeous little walk, has now become my new passion. I'm like all about that now.
So tell me about it then. Tell me what that is now, because that was a long time ago. We're now what, 5 years down the road
Yes.
since, and I remember you mentioning about you doing that walk and about talking about the place where you had that first kiss. And I think you said, imagine if you could capture that wherever you went, these places would be, become landmark places. That's the place where I first saw Soft Cell or something.
And that actually, they create new identities for a city as well. I find that a really exciting thing. And so where have we got to so far? So we've done a few experiments on it. So the first experiment was to get a whole load of stickers printed, and then you'd put the sticker where your memory was. And just that action, that naughty action of putting up a sticker has been a really great thing. I really enjoyed that. And what we wanted to also see with that was actually whether we could get some kind of following from just by putting the stickers up. So on the stickers was a QR code that would take you to our Instagram page, of which there was nothing really on the page. It was really just to see. It was a very, very tiny experiment. Will people take their phones out, put their camera on, check out what the QR code is, and then follow us? What I have loved about this whole process, so, the idea hasn't changed. I want to remap our cities with past and present childhood memories, right? So that hasn't changed. But how we're actually doing that has been a series of tiny little experiments. So, and I am loving that. So instead of see what this looks like, actually this world's allowing me to experiment in ways that I find quite exciting. So the first experiment was, let's see if people would actually be interested in following just a QR code, because actually we always had a feeling that it was going to be a sticker with a QR code and it was going to do something, right? And this actually created dialogue. The stickers was about creating this demarcation, or kind of, Nirvana came up with a term which was called territorial pissings, and I love it. It's very much what this is. And so kind of we went around London putting up stickers where we had memories. So myself and my children and my husband, where we'd had memories.
And like you say, just see, would people bite? Would they be interested?
Exactly. And they did. We ended up with kind of like people that we didn't know were following us, and we thought, oh, that's interesting. And so, and it has gradually grown with all these little experiments. We're now at a point where we're building an MVP to, not so much an app, but let's call it an app. We're going to be launching it in Liverpool with a really fantastic photographers gallery called the Open Eye Gallery. I'm so excited about that. We've been talking to different brands who are really interested in it, which is absolutely fantastic as well. So in about 2 to 3 weeks' time, we will have a prototype of what this thing is.
What it could look like, yeah, and how it could work. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, you know what is interesting, Rachel, with all these little experiments that you do. So I had to do a user experience journey.
Yes.
And, you know, we have no cash. I'm not wealthy. So you realize that you just got to simplify and simplify and simplify. And I've always done that in all of my design work. So I've really enjoyed doing that experiment of this, you know, this journey, person experience, right? What's the experience? And so we've reduced it to its absolute bare minimum, which has been really great to do. And we're going to.
Which is what then? So what do you see the bare
minimum
minimum
is? A sticker.
Yeah.
You're sticking with the sticker in the place of your memory, and you are able to also on that sticker attach your memory. So at the moment we're just working with, is it a photograph? Is it a voice message? Is it text message? Or is, you know, what would be? So, and that is it. And other people that can then find that sticker and check out what that memory actually is just by hovering over the QR code.
And then they can add
their
memory to that place as well. So there'll be places that will have lots of different memories.
They can re-tag their memory to it. Yeah. And what I'm hoping to start seeing is that we're going to stand up with these brilliant micro communities, you know, people who have a particular interest. So, you know, whether that be an Adamant gig that everybody ended up going to, or do you know what I mean? You just end up with these brilliant micro communities coming out there, which I think could be quite interesting. One of the reasons, though, that we're really wanting to do this is I think people are very lonely. And I don't think I can solve loneliness, by the way, but I do think I can create some moments where people can find that they feel as though they belong.
Yes, because it stems from isolation, doesn't it? Because we've all retreated really through technological changes to our lives that mean we don't have to interact. I mean, we've become isolated, and then the lockdowns further isolated us. And there aren't natural opportunities for those micro communities that you're talking about. There just aren't. They used to be when you and I were young. They just happened all the time.
I think giving people a purpose to go out and mark their territory, I think, and kind of go, this is my London, or this is my Liverpool, or this is my Manchester, or, you know, to be able to do that, I think is going to make a massive difference. And that's what it is all about. I also feel that
it's kind of nice as well. Like you said, it's almost like reclaiming a city from a personal perspective, because our cities have become so corporate.
Completely, especially London. I mean, it's massively.
There's none of those communities. A lot of those little gig places and
hangouts
and cafes have all gone.
There is a lot that's gone, but I think there's also a lot that is happening that nobody knows anything about, or that isn't.
It's probably hidden away. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It is quite interesting, all of that. So I feel as though I want people to go back out and
to pushing people back out to interact. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think childhood could do that. And I also think it's going to be a really magnificent way of looking at cities. So I've got this little thought in my head at the moment. You know, you could just tap in 1975 into the website and you'd be able to see Liverpool, let's say, in 1975, just through everybody's memories. I think it might.
You'd see a little me there going to visit my aunt then, because my dad was born in Liverpool, so you'd see me.
Stickers up, darling.
In 1975 in Liverpool, yeah.
But I just think there's it's going to be a really lovely way of being able to archive, for want of a word, but just kind of be able to see that, you know, it's people make cities. It's not the buildings. I mean, we constantly talk about the buildings, and I've constantly designed stuff for those buildings, but actually, we've just got to remember these environments are all about people. And then we've designed a lot of stuff that's for cars and not necessarily people.
Yes, or like we were saying, the very big corporate architecture that has taken over London.
Yeah.
And sadly, you know, my old stomping ground in Dublin, what I loved about Dublin when I first went there is that the public architecture was very human. But then as Dublin and Ireland started to boom, it started to plonk London style corporate architecture, and it's lost a lot of that playfulness. Because
Yeah.
what I loved about Dublin, there are lots of very funny statues. Public architecture is always a chance for, you know, the Irish to have a bit of a laugh, have
Yeah.
a joke. But a lot of that's gone. It's become very serious and big and corporate, but people don't interact with it. They don't,
Yeah.
you know, they
You're
don't
not
move
allowed on
around
it.
in the same way. No.
You know, there was kind of like in just up the road from here, more London.
Yeah.
There was this really, really cute little stream that had been put into the pavement, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And the kids would play in it. There'd be water. It'd be
Yeah.
hysterical. Anyway, in the end, they cemented the whole thing up. So no little stream because people were tripping up because they were looking at their phones. So I kind of want our cities to be a bit.
You want to bring that playfulness, that interaction back.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And a bit of hide and seek and a bit of animating the city with news stories.
And just think, really, potentially, if we hadn't been in a lockdown, you perhaps wouldn't have
done it.
Wouldn't have done it.
Might not have seen the opportunity.
Right. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now.
All right.
Is there anything that you would go back and that you would really wish to change when you look back on your life? Is there anything that you think, if I could go back, I really would like to change that? Or do you think, no, because where I am now, I would miss out on something?
I think, you know, it's a tough one to express, but I think I would never wait for somebody else's approval.
Yeah.
I think
I hear you.
waited for a lot of approval. I've always waited for that, and actually, it's not what people do. It's just not what people do.
Well, no, and that's counter to what you're saying that you loved, is that throwing yourself off a mountain feeling with life, where you just go, well, I don't know if that's the right thing, but
yeah,
I've just got a feeling, so I'm going to go for it. And if it goes pear-shaped, you go, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I could go back, I'd like to relive it all exactly as it's happened without me trying to get people's approval.
I think that's people in general. I think we all do it. Maybe because we're communal animals, aren't we, really? And we want the approval of the group. But it does hold you back so much when you're surrounded by people you're very different from them, but you're trying to get approval from them.
Yeah.
That's the gift of being older.
Yeah.
Is you don't have that.
It's not really approval that I'm looking for. I think it's just this wish to make something happen.
It is so liberating.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to that point. I'm no longer looking for approval being in my 50s. I just think, well, if I'm not going to be myself now, at what point do I suddenly go, oh, I'll be myself?
Yeah, no, totally.
You may as well. You just may as well.
Rachel. No, it's a good point. It is a good point. You've got to at least give that a go.
Got to. All right. That was a lovely conversation.
Yeah, it was.
Really
I really
enjoyed
enjoyed
that.
it.
And I cannot wait for childhood to hit the world. So when do you think that will happen officially? Do you have an idea? Will it be this year?
Oh yeah, totally. So the goal is it will be Easter time, but
oh, that's soon.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it will be ready when it's ready. Because it doesn't need to be super glossy or any of that. You know, it's already out there, it already exists. But and kind of, you know, we've given it this term, you know, the launch, you know, which suddenly places a huge responsibility on it. I think it's just a bit of a deadline. That's all we've done. But
yes.
It'll happen. It'll come out in the world, and it won't be quite right, and it will shift again. And you know, it doesn't need to be perfect at all. Actually, you know, I want a lot of people to just enjoy it.
Will morph over time naturally as all these things that are very interactive with the public.
Yeah, and I want that. There's a real thing that's going on in my mind at the moment where I want the tech bit of it to be the least interesting bit of it, actually, if I'm honest with you. And also, I think I want people to feel a little bit more liberated by doing it, rather than again, you're using your phone or you're kind of. So
you're more interested in the personal impact of it, aren't you?
So I don't want people to be scrolling through this thing, but I do want people to find interaction or moments to celebrate or remind themselves of kind of like things that were really fabulous. And also, this isn't to say that everything's all pink and pretty. I think there are ways that people can really help each other out through some of the sad stories that they may leave there as well. Yeah. I think it's just about creating a bit of like a fireplace pit. Yes. Where people can just kind of,
it's the human element,
it's
isn't
going
it?
to be what people actually do with it that I think will be interesting. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure some people will start getting playful with it, and that will be interesting.
Then it'll take on a life of its own.
Yeah.
Okay, then, Nathalie Gibbs. So where can people find you, reach out to you? Where can they find out more about childhood?
I would say easy to just find me on LinkedIn for the time being.
Yeah. So I'll put a link.
And that's where I'll say that something has been launched or something is happening.
Okay, lovely. People can send you a message. They can keep their eye out then for when it's launched around Easter time.
You.
I can't wait.
And
I'm fascinated by
these things take time as well. I mean, the fact that we want to do everything fast, I think also negates so much brilliance. And I've met lots and lots of people as I've been talking about it, and lots of people have joined in, and so it's constantly morphed and changed. I've really enjoyed that about it, but it is at the moment, it's my most favourite thing. It makes me quite happy thinking about childhood and doing.
Well, you look happy. I'm delighted. Okay, well, lovely to talk to you as always, and I will talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, Rachel. Take care.